Hello and welcome to my channel Pro Learners. In today's video, we are going to learn about newly inserted section 43B(h) of Income Tax Act 1961. This is the most important section for those who are dealing with micro and small companies. Through this video, we will learn about its applicability, effectiveness, MSME, the key terms, its penalty, and much more. So stay tuned till the end of this video. So before we jump to the section 43B subsection H, let us first understand what does the section 43B of Income Tax Act 1961 says. So according to this section, there are certain deductions or expenses that will be allowed from the profit of business on the basis of actual payment, which means it will be allowed in the year in which you have actually paid. Let us take an example. If it is related to the financial year 22-23 and you have paid those expenses in the month of 31st May 2023, then these will be allowed only if it is paid before filing of ITR. This is the proviso. Okay, so there are proviso as well for this section that these expenses will be allowed even if you have paid in different assessment year, right? If you have paid those expenses before filing of your income tax return. So if you have paid those expenses before filing of ITR, then it will be allowed for the same financial year. You can claim as an expense. So there are certain deductions which are covered under section 43B, such for an example like ESI, PF, some statutory payments are there which are covered under section 43B. Now moving to the section 43B(h). So let us first understand what does the section 43B(h) of Income Tax Act 1961 says. Any sum payable by assessee to micro or small enterprise beyond the time limit specified in section 15 of MSME Act 2006 shall be allowed as deduction. So पहले यहाँ तक समझते हैं. So any sum paid by assessee, if any sum has been paid by assessee after the time limit expired, the time limit has been specified in section 15 of MSME Act 2006, shall be allowed as deduction while calculating the income from business and profession in the previous year in which it is actually paid. So it is the same words that we have understood in section 43B, that any sum will be allowed only on the basis of actual payment. So here it is the same thing which has been mentioned in section 43B. But in section 43B, there was a proviso that if you have paid those expenses before filing of ITR, then you can claim those expenses in the same financial year, but that proviso is not applicable here. That means that relaxation before paying of ITR is not applicable here. That means even if you have paid it before 31st of July or 30th of September, even though you cannot deduct those expenses from the previous financial year. You can claim in the next financial year. Let us understand in more simple terms. Any amount paid by the assessee. Assessee here is the payer or buyer, you can say. Okay, so this section applies to purchasing of goods or services. So any amount paid by the assessee means buyer to MSME, to micro or small companies after the specified period which has been prescribed in section 15 of MSME Act 2006 that we will discuss later, shall be allowed in the previous year in which the sum is actually paid by him. So it is irrespective that previous year in which liability has to pay such sum was incurred by the assessee according to the accounting method he is using. So this amendment aims to address the issue of working capital scarcity in the MSME industry and promote prompt payment to micro and small business. Now let us understand applicability of this section. When does this clause will be applicable? This clause will be applicable when an enterprise is buying goods or taking services, as we have told you earlier, that it is applicable in case of buying goods or services from an enterprise registered under the MSMED Act 2006. If we are taking any services or we are buying goods from the registered entity which is registered under MSMED Act 2006, then only this clause will be applicable. But please note that buyer need not to be registered under MSME Act. So there is no mandatory that the buyer should also be registered under MSME Act. But the supplier should be. Now, from which date it is become effective? This section has been effective from the 1st of April 2024, which means this amendment is applicable from the financial year 22-23 to 2024, this year itself. So please make sure your clients or your companies are following this section. They should not be in default. Now, who all are covered under MSME? Like which are micro enterprise or which are small enterprises? The turnover limit for micro enterprise is fixed for the 5 crores. That means the micro enterprises are those whose turnovers are not exceeding 5 crores. And small enterprises are those whose turnover are not exceeding 50 crores. Also, there is second condition that their investments in plant and machinery or equipments shall not exceed 1 crore for the micro enterprises and 10 crores for the small enterprises. So we have to consider both the conditions simultaneously while checking the micro and small enterprises. For calculation of turnover, we have to keep in mind that export of goods and services shall be excluded. That will not be covered under the calculation of turnover. And all the information regarding turnover and export turnover shall be linked to the income tax return or GST portal. Now, time limit, that we have already heard that time limit is important, right? So time limit is prescribed in section 15 of MSMED Act 2006. According to section 15, if any supplier supplies any goods or render any services to the buyer shall make payment on or before, keep in mind, payment on or before the agreed date between him and supplier in writing. buyer shall make the payment on or before the agreed date between him and supplier in writing. And if there is no agreement in writing, then he shall make the payment before the appointed date. We will also understand what is appointed day. Okay, I will tell you in some time. But there is one more condition, right? The payment shall not exceed, period shall not exceed 45 days from the date of acceptance or deemed date of acceptance, right? So in simple terms, the business enterprises are required to pay to micro and small companies within 45 days depending upon the presence of written agreement. Like, right, maximum period could be only 45 days. But if there is no agreement, then payment should have been done within 15 days. The 45 days period is only if there is agreement in written. So if there is no agreement, then you have to make the payment within 15 days. And if you have not made the payment within those 15 days, then you are in default. We will also discuss what will be the consequences of default. Right. So I have taken a word, appointed day. What is appointed day? Appointed day is the day immediately following 15 days from the day of acceptance or deemed acceptance of any goods. So appointed day is used only in case there is no written agreement, right? So if there is no written agreement, then you should pay the sum to the MSME within 15 days only. But if there is a written agreement, then you can pay within the days as per the agreement, but it shall not exceed 45 days. So day of acceptance or deemed date of acceptance shall be the day on which the goods have been actually delivered or the services have been actually paid, takes place, like services actually given, right? Now, as we told you that we will also discuss the consequences of delayed payment. If the payment has been delayed, the consequences has been prescribed in section 16 of MSMED Act 2006. So what are the consequences? So first is, like, there would be interest penalty, right? So if you have not paid within the prescribed time, then there will be interest levied on the delayed payment, right? So what will be the interest rate? The buyers are liable to pay interest on delayed payment at the rate of 3 times the bank rate notified by RBI. So buyer will be liable to pay the 3 times of the rate that has been notified by the RBI. And interest will be compounded with monthly rest. So from when the interest will be applicable? It will be applicable from the appointed day or the day of acceptance, as the case may be, agreement as per the case may be. In case of agreement, then immediately after the terms of agreement ends, right? Due date ends. And in case there is no agreement, then appointed date will be the date from which interest is levied. And as per section 23 of Income Tax Act 1961, in case of late payment to an MSME, whatever the interest we have paid here, that will not be allowed as an expense. You cannot claim those as an expense from your profit and loss account. So please come, because it will be a debt loss. So please complete your payment within the due date itself, because interest will be your debt loss. You cannot claim as an expense. So that is it for now. In our upcoming video, we will address the pros and cons of this section, its implication on ITR and tax audit report. So to get to know about our next video, please hit the bell icon, subscribe to our channel, and also please like and share our video with your friends. Thank you.